Welcome to our occupied nation's capital. It's the 62nd day of the occupation with troops and a wall. We've got Fog City Midge is in studio as our co-host today with Raheem Kassan and myself. Fog City, you're actually making a film, a short film about this occupation?
Yes. Yesterday I went around the Capitol and got tons of video footage. I also interviewed several people who were protesting outside who had signs. I actually got one of them.
Take down this wall?
Take down this wall.
Unbelievable.
Right? So there are a number of people who have just had it. Both, I think, Democrats and Republicans alike are disgusted.
American
to see
citizens.
This. American citizens. This is a bipartisan issue. This wall needs to come down. And
it's a disgrace.
It's a complete disgrace.
Particularly since they haven't given us any information. And Matt Gaetz said the information he's seen as a congressman doesn't require this wall with the razor barbed wire or any of it.
It's bizarre, though, because it seems like, if anything, they're actually extending it and they're putting in multiple layers of fencing. It's not just that one.
And you've got footage of that.
Yes.
Raheem, how many days without a unaccompanied press conference?
Oh, I mean, look, it clearly doesn't matter to them at this point, right? It's 50. It's coming up on 50 now. This entire time, this entire regime, we've heard nothing unadulterated, unaccompanied, unhandheld from Joe Biden. And it's really interesting, isn't it, that I watch Jen Psaki every day, and the regime is becoming more sardonic, more snarky, less transparent, less amenable to answering questions as every single day goes by. And I think it's going to play incredibly badly with the public. And I encourage every single one of you, to make sure that your friends and your family members and your colleagues and everyone are watching her every day.
You're in the war room. You can tell that. But I think we need a producer to help with that. His
it'd be
mic.
Great if I had a mic.
If he had a mic that worked, it'd be fantastic. Even better, Raheem speaking with a mic actually works better. It's Wednesday, the 10th of March, year of our Lord, 2021. Although there are 40 million downloads on the podcast, of course, on the John Fredericks Radio Network. I want to welcome our audience in Virginia and also our news station down in Metro Atlanta. That is WMLB AM 1690. I want to make sure all the folks in Georgia. We're going to be talking about Georgia in this show. Of course, Real America's Voice, the streaming platform for the Trump Revolution, Dish Channel 219, Comcast Channel 113, and get the app. Go to Real America's Voice, get the app, download it. We've got live chat. We've got worm.org/join. You've got newsletters, all of it free. Just go there. And we want to thank our new sponsor. We're going to have an announcement later about what's going on in Arizona tonight at this conference. I think Mike Lindell is supposed to speak there. MyPillow.com, our sponsors, the guys at MyPillow. Remember, up to 66% discount, but you've got to go and use the promo code WARROOM. You use that, you got up to 66% discounts. Of course, you've got the queen-size pillow for $29.98. Throw $5 more in there, you get the king size. That's MyPillow.com. Okay. There's so much going on the border. We're going to have Mark Krikorian, CIS, on here. We've got new numbers out. The numbers are shocking. We have told you now for weeks and weeks and weeks there's a crisis. It's not going to be in April or May. That's going to be what President Trump said is a tsunami. We're now in the crisis. The White House is denying it. But as we've said here before, the wound of November 3rd has to be dealt with, right? And so we're going to go. There's massive breaking news out of Wisconsin. And in addition, Braynard, we're going to have Matt Braynard. It's about to be big breaking news out of the state of Georgia. I want to go now to Phill Kline from the Amistad Project. Phill has been at the cutting edge of this and really had a major revelation in this period between November 3rd and the 20th, really dug down and found out this situation with Mark Zuckerberg was much more, I think, disturbing than it was, than the mainstream media put it out to be. So, Phill, talk to us. There's an explosive investigative report coming out by M.D. Kittle out of Wisconsin, an investigative group up there. This article was up on it was on all the major aggregation sites and up on Jim's great site, Gateway Pundit, as one of the lead stories. You've been doing the investigation. I think you just testified this afternoon. What is going on in Wisconsin, and what does it show us about how this election was stolen?
Well, Wisconsin confirms what we've been thinking for some time, and that is that Zuckerberg and the left ran a shadow government in the urban core to get government engaged in putting its thumb on the scale for partisan advantage for Mr. Biden. And what we've obtained in Wisconsin and previously obtained in Pennsylvania and other states is similar, is we've got an election clerk in Green Bay who is being shoved to the side by the mayor, and CTCL, the Center for Tech and Civic Life, to which Zuckerberg gave $350 million. And Steve, it's important to remember that the funding from Zuckerberg and the left to run the shadow government exceeded the federal government funding for the election. So not only did you have great wealth engaged in it, but they used government officials to manage the election and turn over that management for partisan advantage to private interests. For example, here is just a sample of an email from Chris Teskey in Green Bay on September 2nd, where she is complaining. She is the election. She's the person who's to run the election. And she's being edged out by the mayor of Green Bay, who's giving all the authority to the national Vote at Home group. And they are tied with CTCL. They're tied with a group called the Center for Election Innovation and Research, to which Zuckerberg gave $50 million, that control poll books. They're tied to the left. She says, I can't attend any other ad hoc meeting. The committee isn't helping the clerk's office. It's intimidating, micromanaging, and bullying behavior. Wow. It's not assisting. Later, this Institute for Voting at Home actually took over the management of the ballots and the curing of the ballots. They set up a ballot center, and it was this private director who was in charge of Wisconsin, who we have the emails, had all the keys, who determined who had access, who set up the entire system for managing these ballots. We see in Philadelphia, through discovery and litigation, ordered by a federal judge in one of our lawsuits, that they paid the election judges Zuckerberg money, that they dictated how the process would be run, and that they had the right to claw back money if they didn't achieve objectives for voter turnout. Now, this is the Democrat core, and where there's a high turnout of Democrat voters. And the Zuckerberg money went to government for geofencing for voter turnout, for all the sophisticated techniques that an election uses to turn out the vote. Except this time, it was the government. Now, combine this with this factor. Your blue state governors in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, were shutting down in-person polling places in the rural areas because of COVID, making it difficult in traditional Republican areas to vote. And yet they were using this money to make it impossible not to vote in Democrat strongholds. That's a violation of equal protection. In Wisconsin, Steve, the average in the urban areas where they received Zuckerberg money, they had about $47 a voter to operate the election. In the rural areas, $4 a voter.
Wow.
That's the America we're creating.
So, Phill, two questions. One, because Maggie's here and we're continuing a conversation today about a lot of the Trump base is very distraught about this. And one of the questions is, how did nobody see this happening in advance? And particularly Republican administrators in the great state of Wisconsin. These guys did a terrific job of trying to fight the ICs and the early voting and all that. How did people, because it doesn't seem like it was that hidden, right? And you're talking about a guy putting up personally as much money as the federal government. Didn't the alarm bells start going off? I mean, we did the voter, the Transition Integrity Project thing here starting in July. But this Zuckerberg's been working on this a while. Number one, why did no Republican officials find out about it? Number two, at this stage, what is this going to mean as you continue on your investigation and your lawsuits?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely correct, Steve. We sued in August on some of this, and the litigation's still ongoing. I think it's this. We don't think well in crisis. And they used fear, they used claims of crisis, and they claimed false objectives, and nobody looked into the details. I know a lot of government officials, regardless of the party, if somebody says, we're going to give you money and you won't have to tax more for it, they're going to take it regardless of the strings. And we have to think deeper. We have to be more real in America about the impact of this. And now afterwards, we're seeing the impact. Where it is for us, we've got two pieces of litigation. We're in Michigan, and we're also in, son of a gun, I'm forgetting right now, the states we're in, Georgia, on this issue, and we are pursuing it through discovery. We're also going to file new litigation based on this evidence and the other evidence we're obtaining in investigation. The investigation is interviewing people that were involved as well as open records requests. We're not stopping until we get to the bottom of it. And I'll tell you this, what this says is that Zuckerberg should come clean with all of his emails about this plan. David Plouffe was running his foundation for him as David Plouffe came up with this idea for voter turnout in the urban area. He published it in his book in March of 2020. Zuckerberg funded it through CTCL, CEIR, National Vote at Home Institute, Rock the Vote. All of those groups now need to share their secret agreements with government, their emails, and how they dictated the management of the election. We need those communications. The American people deserve it. A billionaire was invited in the counting room and America was kicked out, and we cannot stand for that.
Assuming they're just not going to turn it over, are your lawsuits or the state legislatures, which are Republican controlled in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Georgia and Arizona, are they going to demand, Arizona, Mike Lindell's out there tonight, or he's at least digitally brought in, they're going to have a forensic audit in Maricopa County with 2.1 million votes. Are you going to demand, or the legislature is going to demand, or the court's going to demand that this information, all of it, be turned over so the American people can see exactly what went on?
We're pursuing it from all of those angles. Absolutely. It should be. And the American people need to demand it as well.
So, Phill, is the outcome, you believe, at some point in time, you and others are going to be able to stand up and say, okay, CNN, you got to take the baseless off of the charges here. You got to take the no evidence off. There is not baseless. There is evidence.
But they should do it now. They should do it now. And they would if this was the Koch brothers or the NRA or anybody else that was buying off local election officials, telling them how to run the election, setting guideposts up that are focused on voter turnout, and actually letting private officials manage the ballots rather than the elected or appointed officials who must be objective.
Phill,
America needs to wake up. The left needs to wake up. This is a problem. And we're just opening the door
I don't know if
for
they need to wake
elections
up.
brought by Coca-Cola.
They just stole an election. I don't know if they need to wake up. It's working for them. Phill, how do people get to the Amistad Project?
GOT-freedom.com, got-freedom.com. That's our affiliated C4, and they also report on what we're doing with Amistad.
Okay, Phill, thank you very much for joining us here in War Room.
Thank you.
You may have a point here.
My point with what I was saying last night.
No, we're still fighting.
Okay,
we got to fight in the courts, but you got to. Raheem, you can jump in too. Give me some air cover.
I think when people hear that and they saw what happened in the last election, they are so disheartened because they see that a billionaire can come in and basically swing the election in the direction that they want. And I don't know, the American people are pretty upset.
This is what should have happened on January 6th. This is the type of thing we wanted them to spend. They were going to spend 2 hours on Wisconsin to go through this type of information and make the mainstream media be forced to report it. This is what will kill his political capital. This will increase people over the 40% that think he's illegitimate and illegal. Mr. Raheem Kassam, you've got that pensive look.
No offense intended, I don't care if people are discouraged. Do you know what I mean? Like, get over it. This is America.
Fight back.
This is America.
Fight back, Maggie.
Okay, so let's say...
Are you mansplaining that? Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is America. Your elections have basically always been open to millionaires, billionaires, these huge interest groups. Get over it and fight back.
Okay, let's take a short break. We're going to return with Matt Braynard. We're going to be in Georgia next in the War Room.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, if you're in the war room, that means you're in the arena. If you're in the arena, you're in the fight, you're a patriot warrior. We need you to be a health warrior. We're in this for the long haul. We need the immune systems, right, in the middle of this pandemic or coming out of this pandemic, no matter if you think it's from a bioweapon or a total hoax. We need your immune system up. We've got a company that's working with us. Go to warroomdefense.com. Get your War Room Defense Pack. We've procured the bottles of zinc and vitamin D3 to start this off. You get it for free, pay shipping and handling. We've got the War Room logo on the top, and we got the helmet of the Spartans, the 300 at Thermopylae on the container. Make sure you go. We need you healthy. We need your immune systems up. Okay, now we're going to turn. This is about being a patriot warrior. Get back into the fight. You're worked up on this.
Yeah, I'm worked up, but I
Is
think
the base worked up also?
the base is worked up, but I have to turn it back on Raheem. But people want to know what is the legal path forward here, and are there going to be any consequences? It's like we need the Republicans in these states to stand up, but we didn't see them stand up when we kind of needed them to. So I don't have a lot of expectations that they're going to do that now.
Raheem.
Cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you. Right? We were screwed royally, and we got screwed because we got all the warnings in the world. Okay, we had Phill Kline out there. We rumbled the Transition Integrity Project from this room
In July.
Okay,
Yep.
It's not like we didn't know. Listen, there were years after the United Kingdom voted for Brexit where it seemed like we were just not going to get it. It wasn't going to happen. And what did people have to do in that circumstance? Back down against the government, against Boris, against Gina Miller and all these people who try to stop us? No, we put our shoulders to the wheel on something that looked and seemed absolutely impossible. I understand they have the money. And they have the billionaires. I understand they have the Facebooks. I understand all of these things. Look, right here I have the noise you're hearing. Right here I have innovation in my hand. This is a freedom phone. This is a blockchain device. Losing is going to make us innovate. And unless we cast our eyes that way, instead of down and into our navels and complaining that other people aren't doing this work for us, that other people aren't going to fund us, that other people aren't going to investigate elections for us, then you will lose day in and day out. It is up to the ordinary person out there to recognize there is no one else coming to save you. You will save yourself.
Okay, I agree with a lot of that, Raheem, but I guess...
Run for office. Are you running for office?
I want to run for office,
Good.
but here's the thing. I think that people like myself feel like I could never get elected. When I'm told by the establishment that people like me are too MAGA, right? That's what well, you missed the conversation yesterday. I applied for the White House twice. Okay, you heard it,
Yeah.
right? So the people are too MAGA,
Yeah.
right? That they can't get in. And when you have these great MAGA candidates in states like California and they get in, they don't get the endorsement and the establishment picks people.
But again, why are you relying on somebody else? It's going to happen like that in life. There are going to be people who put barriers up in front of you. That's life. It's unfair. There's evil in the world. I get it. And by the way, one of my closest people in my life, the same thing happened to her back in 2016 when she applied to work in the White House through that online portal, right?
Yep.
Rejected for being too America first.
Let's hang out for a second. Put a pin in it. We're going to come back to this. We love this. We're going to get to Matt Braynard first. We got Mark Krikorian coming in about the border. We're going to get back into this because this is an issue that's out there among the MAGA base. We understand that. Okay, I want to bring in Matt Braynard now. He was our data guy on the winning election in 2016 and now the executive director of Look Ahead America. Matt, the whole internet's kind of exploding on these reports that you're coming out with. You've been working with your data team, and I think the first one you're going to drop is in Georgia. We now have a station in Georgia, AM 1690. Can you talk about what's the timing? What's it going to show? We hear you're going to name names in this report, actually down to who voted illegally or where it was located, and you're actually going to back up the receipts so that people can see how this election was stolen. Is that what this report's going to entail?
Sure. This is a follow-up of much of our findings in the aftermath of the 2020 general election. Unfortunately, at that time, we were entangled with multiple lawsuits trying to seek justice in the courts for what happened. And as you know, the courts all shut that down. We never got to see the light of day or have our evidence examined at all. So in the meantime, we've gone back to fortify, that's a magic word these days, fortify our findings. And we'll be releasing them probably middle of next week, where we will show that the number of illegally cast ballots surpasses the margin of victory, first of all, in Georgia. So we'll be publicizing the voter records under whom ballots were cast that should not have been cast. Now, to be clear, just because a ballot was cast in somebody's name didn't mean that they did it personally. But just by using government databases and then fortifying with what we found in tax records, social media, driver's license databases, etc., we're going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the margin of victory in Georgia was overcome by the number of illegal ballots. And then we're going to go and do the same thing in Wisconsin and Arizona and potentially Pennsylvania. And without Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin, we would have a different person in the White House today.
I want to go back to Georgia just one more time. You've cross-referenced this, and people should know Matt Braynard, when he gets down into the data, you come back and you got verifiable numbers. Tell us once again, what did your team do to cross-reference this, and what are you going to be able to show?
Sure. We had 3 tests. Number one, in the state of Georgia, you have to register where you actually live. And we found a tremendous number of people in Georgia and in other states who registered at a post office box or at a FedEx location and disguised it as an apartment number. And that's clearly illegal. So anybody casting a ballot from a registration like that, it's an illegal ballot. We've also found people, a tremendous number, who cast ballots despite telling the government that they had moved their residency to another state. So I'm sure we all heard anecdotes of people saying, I live in New York City, my ballot doesn't really cast here, but I can get a ballot down in Georgia where I haven't lived for 10 years and cast it there. We've identified thousands and thousands more of those, as well as people who registered to vote in another state, voted in another state, and also voted in Georgia. So we're able to document all of these indications of people casting these illegal ballots. And we're going to release it. We will probably release the full unredacted report to government officials, certain committee members in the state legislature of Georgia, and to journalists. I have a journalist who's going to be looking over my shoulder at all this data on Friday from the Epic Times, as well as releasing a report that is somewhat redacted, which will not have names, but will be available for the public. Because again, just because a ballot was cast in your name doesn't mean you were the one that cast it. So we don't want to dox people who are effectively innocent, but we will be putting these real names and addresses and voter ID numbers, et cetera, in front of the people who have the power to make the reforms that will never allow this to happen again.
Well, before we get to reforms, you're going to give it to executives in the Georgia government and people at these committees in the House and the Senate, unredacted, so they can actually see it, and you've got the backup data, correct? I just want to make sure we're clear on this.
Yeah, they'll be able to see absolutely everything, and I'd be happy to share it with you so you can personally look at it and verify what we have done. And I will say that I don't want to speak too soon, but we may be engaged in some legal activity next week involving possible defamation against me personally, which would be a wonderful way to highlight all of these findings that we have and force the mainstream media in Georgia and elsewhere to pay attention to this very real issue.
Okay, we've got this kind of schism in the Trump movement right now. A little bit of people saying, "Hey, why wasn't it done before? Why wasn't more done?" You've got a not-for-profit. You've raised money. You guys have been laboring away, working 20 hours a day, November 3rd up to the inauguration, or to the 6th. Why weren't election officials in Georgia, why didn't they do this work? Isn't that what's required of the state officials? Why does it have to have Matt Braynard, a concerned citizen, and other people on your staff, or a lot of them are volunteers, raising money from the deplorables to go out and do this and have to redact it? As citizens, I think the MAGA crowd is sitting there going, hey, if I'm a Georgia citizen, why didn't the state officials do this?
I think part of it was laziness and complacency, and I think many of them only realized they had a problem until it was too late. And to admit that they had a problem would be also admitting that they're unfit to do the jobs they were elected to do and damn the rest of their political careers. They can't admit that there were these problems at the scale that we've identified them to, because by admitting them, they're also admitting their own incompetence and putting an end to their political careers. But what they didn't realize is that their political careers are already over now because of the way they've carried themselves in this aftermath and their insistence on covering it up rather than being the advocates. There's no reason that we're a voter registration organization, right? That's our primary goal. There's no reason why this private citizens group should be having to raise $5 and $10 contributions from grandmas to pay for this very expensive research when it's the state's responsibility. But we can ask why they didn't. There's all kinds of answers to that. But the question is, well, what do we do next? And what we're leading the charge on in Georgia and many other states is making reforms. Because, look, we're not going to really change who's in the White House. It's not going to change with what we come up with in our report. What we're going to do is harness that energy to get the citizens to pressure the state legislature to institute the reforms we've outlined that would prevent these problems from happening again and restore confidence in our elections.
Is the bill that got passed in the House and the other in the Senate, I know they haven't been worked on together, or at least haven't been put together, but do those two bills incorporate everything you need to make sure that it would never happen again, what you're going to show in this report?
They've incorporated almost none of it, even though everything we've done is, everything we've recommended is very easy to understand, completely compliant with existing law. And you know what? Even if H.R. 1 does pass, all of our recommendations are actually compatible with that and still solving most of the problems we have with voter integrity. So until we get our citizens politely knocking on the doors of their state legislators in Georgia and elsewhere, insisting on hearings, insisting on the Look Ahead America policy objectives, I'm not sure we're going to really get anywhere. It's just window dressing.
Okay, we will get this sorted out. Matt, how do people follow you? How do they track what you're working on?
We need everybody's helping get either volunteers, donors, or just stay in touch with what we're doing at lookaheadamerica.org.
Matt Braynard, a great patriot. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Happy to be here.
You know, Maggie, I think I'm getting more to your side. Just kidding. We got to get the fight. I got to tell you, it didn't say it was going to be easy. It was going to be easy everybody would do it. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break.
It took years to break it. It's going to take years to fix it.
Well, and this is the other thing. You're going to have people that are going to be relentless. Because when Braynard puts that report out next week, don't think they're going to sit there and say, this is so wonderful that Braynard and these guys did it and these donors did it. They're going to be attacked for being racist, nativist, all of it, okay? It's all coming. So you can see how the opposition's teeing this up right now about voter suppression. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return, and we're going to go and talk about this explosion at the southern border next.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The White House saying the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border is, quote, not a crisis yet, but it does come as a record number of unaccompanied migrant children are now in custody at the southern border. And the more than 100,000 migrants arrested and encountered in recent weeks is at a 5-year high. So whatever you want to call it, it is a dramatic surge. Ed Lavandera is out front. I mean, Ed, it's amazing to see what's happening right now. And let's just start with this disturbing reality, a record number of unaccompanied migrant children in custody at the border, right? This is a really big challenge because they're unaccompanied and they're there. What do you do with them? Where do you send them? What happens? What is the Biden administration going to do about this?
These are serious, pressing questions. And the Biden administration overall, essentially what they're arguing is that they are trying to implement a much more humanitarian immigration policy compared to the 4 years of the Trump administration. The border and immigration has really been dominated by two things the last few years, and that is the Remain in Mexico policy. You've had some 25,000 migrants sitting in border towns waiting to get permission to enter the U.S. And you also have what is known as Title 42, which is what the Trump administration was using because of the coronavirus pandemic to block a lot of people from entering the United States to seek asylum because of the medical issues facing the country in this pandemic. So the administration says it needs time to kind of work through all of these problems to implement what they describe as a more humanitarian approach. But the bottom line is this is a situation that is quickly changing, and many of the administration's critics say that the administration just isn't acting fast enough.
And what are the most pressing issues? I mean, you talk about a record number of children, you talk about 100,000 people turned away, but what is the most pressing issue that they face right now?
Well, I think you hit it off the top. It's the unaccompanied children that are in custody. As we reported, the data shows about 3,400 of these unaccompanied minors.
The last fact is this. I was told this in our meeting earlier, and it shows you how much the problem has escalated this year. I was told that in all of last year, in the Rio Grande Valley sector, there were about 90,000 apprehensions. I was told that already this year, in just, January, February, and half of March, there have already been 108,000 apprehensions. And so you can see that we are on a scale where it's going to more than double or triple or maybe quadruple or quintuple the number of apprehensions made just in the Rio Grande Valley sector alone because of the new policies of the Biden administration.
You've been telling migrants from right there for a month now, all the way back to February 10th, that now is not the time to come, but they are coming in bigger numbers every day. So do you have a messaging problem?
Well, I would say that in the last administration, we had a morality problem, and children were being pulled from the arms of their parents, and kids were being sent back on a treacherous journey. And that's not the approach of this administration. So certainly we understand that means there will be more kids who are crossing the border. We made a policy decision that was the right, humane step to take. But I think it's also important for people to understand that the vast majority of people who come to our border are turned away, are sent back to their countries. What we're talking about here are unaccompanied children, and what our focus is on is ensuring that there are safe places for these kids to go that have access, where they have access to educational resources, health and medical attention, legal assistance as needed, and that we can expedite the vetting so that they can get to families and sponsors where they can have their cases adjudicated.
Yeah, they've got a humanitarian crisis. They are now, that's an open invitation right there. This is the arrogance of what this administration does. This is like Angela Merkel in 2015. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, MyPillow.com. Make sure you go to MyPillow.com and hashtag War Room. That's the promo code. Go into the promo code War Room. You get to 110 products. I want to thank the MyPillow people. I want to thank Mike Lindell for sponsoring the War Room, for doing all the great work they're doing. Want to get in this topic, we'll talk more about MyPillow later. Go to promo code War Room. You've got everything there. Make sure you go there today. Show the support for Lindell, MyPillow, and the War Room. This is stunning. This is exploding. We got Mark Krikorian, one of the smartest guys. They finally forced the numbers out today. We don't even know what the numbers are. Aaron Burnett says, yeah, there's been 100 peak. No, that's just in the Rio Grande Valley. Right. We're going to have, the team is going to be in Yuma tomorrow. This is a crisis that is an unforced error. This is the arrogance. You saw Psaki up there, that dismissive arrogance, right? These kids, right, it's unfair of what is happening, okay? They're putting the burden on the working class people on the border, the Hispanics down there. They're also endangering these kids. This is all cartel driven. Raheem Kassam, you've seen this before, right?
Well, I just want to correct you on something. They don't have a humanitarian crisis on the border. They created a humanitarian on the border. Let's be very, very clear about that. And even reporters in the room with Jen Psaki today said to her, hey, I know you don't want to use the word crisis up at the podium, but it's becoming a fait accompli now that we are going to have to start using that word. Now, we obviously have used that word here since forever, since this whole thing started. We warned that this crisis was coming.
4 or 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago.
I remember when we called the migrant crisis of Europe the migrant crisis back when I was editing the Breitbart London section, and everybody else in the country said, oh, that's too hyperbolic. Right. You can't call it a migrant crisis. Now, of course, we just remember it as the migrant crisis, right? But let me give you another buried lead that CNN actually reported today, but you still won't quite hear this yet. Let's make sure that more people hear this. She goes up there and she talks about the morality of the previous administration. She says, we're not going to have the same immoral approach. And by the way, we are sending most people back when they get to the border. So basically the same thing, but no, we're the moral ones. Here's the deal. The law permits for authorities to detain children for 72 hours at the border. Yep. Last week, the Biden regime was holding children for an average of 77 hours. This week, that has gone up to an average of 107 hours. So I will be at Reagan National Airport with a ticket for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I, and we can go down there and we can cry at the fence together.
Right.
That was my exact thought. I was like, where's AOC? Is she going to be doing a staged photo shoot down there in front of these detention centers?
Let's bring Mark Krikorian, the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies. You've been so good, Mark, to been on the show so many times. But the numbers finally came out today. Give our audience the sense of what the scale of this problem is. Trump said it's going to be a tsunami in a couple of months. We've been talking about April and May, but it's already here, sir. Talk to us about the scale of this, given the numbers you've seen.
Yeah, it's definitely growing. I mean, the unaccompanied minors, most of them are teenagers, of course. They're not 5-year-olds, but still, they're underage, supposedly unaccompanied. Somebody paid to have them smuggled to the border. They crossed over on their own and turned themselves in. That number for February was 9,000. And it seems, as far as I can tell, that seems to be the second highest month ever. There was only one other month during the huge spike that Trump had to deal with and successfully stopped that was higher. The family units, so-called, that's the adults traveling with children, and then you do get some younger children. That number is significantly higher than last February, but it still hasn't reached the peak levels that it did when Trump had to deal with his migrant crisis and successfully did it. The reason you're seeing so many of these unaccompanied minors is specifically because of Biden policies. This is not a supposition, because in your earlier comments, somebody had referred to the public health rule, the Title 42, it's called, an emergency rule. People are just turned around at the border and sent right back. No hearings, no nothing. Biden said that was evil and terrible, but he's kept it in place except for unaccompanied minors. So in other words, they're allowed to stay and then they're delivered to their relatives. So what did they think was going to happen? Of course there's going to be more. There's 9,000 last month, there's going to be more next month. And, what is their off-ramp? How do they figure they're going to resolve this? I don't see any good way for them to, get out of this problem. I don't know if I use this image with you guys, but this is kind of Jimmy Carter 2.0. And remember, he had a huge migrant crisis with the Mariel boat lift of Cubans coming over. But those people were coming over water. It was easier to stop. Biden not only is unwilling to stop it, his own supporters won't tolerate him stopping it, but it's also going to be harder for him to stop it just because they're not coming by water. They can come across any place.
Maggie, you had spent some time today, one of the smartest guys in town, about working on this. We can't disclose the name until his work's finished. What number, he extrapolated out from what he's seen, what number did he tell you he thinks they're going to hit for illegal aliens coming in the year 2021?
The expectation being projected by this individual said they anticipate 2.5 million people are going to come across our southern border this year.
Mark, as you've seen these numbers put out today by DHS, when you look at, not just the children, but everybody else that's coming across by the cartels, have you guys as CIS start to make any projections, or what should people anticipate unless these policies are changed?
Yeah, we don't do projections, but it's not at all impossible that you could get 2 million apprehensions. Now, some of those people will be adults that are caught several times, sort of revolving door, because the Biden people won't prosecute border jumpers, even though that's a crime, as well as an administrative offense. They'll just sort of send them right back. This can, and I think almost certainly will, spin out of control. And the real question is not, is the border going to spin out of control? The question is, can the Biden administration respond to it? And I got to say, I don't think so. And let me explain a little bit why. Because the political folks, the Democratic sort of vote counters, understand that this is a disaster. Just like some of the congressmen on the border have said, Cuellar and some other people have said, this is going to be a disaster for us. But there is the other faction in this administration who are the human rights crusaders who don't believe in borders, don't believe in America, frankly. And you need a strong president to say, okay, slam his fist down on the table. This is what we're going to do. Make a decision. Biden is not capable of making a decision. So you're going to see drift, as it were. In other words, indecision. And indecision means more and more and more illegal aliens coming across the border.
Mark, how do people follow you on social media? How do they get to the CIS site to follow this on a daily basis?
CIS is online at cis.org, and I am on Twitter at Mark S. Krikorian, S as in Stephen. And actually, I'm in Arizona right now, but it's family business. I'm not down at the border.
Mark Krikorian, look forward to checking up with you tomorrow in the days that follow. A great report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Raheem, you know what's so chilling what he just said? That was the issues we talked about in 2015 and 16 with the German government, right? Yeah. You've got political people who are saying one thing and then, hey, maybe this is going to hurt us with moderates, hurt us with the right, hurt us with the general population. And you have ideologues that are sitting there go, no, now we have a chance. This crisis is, and it's stunning to me that in the year 2021 and 2022, given all the time and effort that's been focused on the border, all the debates we've had, the wall, not the wall, building the wall, the crisis of 19, of all of it, right? That now we're in 2021, and we are, I believe, looking at the biggest crisis we've ever had at the southern border. It's going to be upon us. That is what's stunning. We've seen all the debate, all the time and effort, all the media coverage. Now it's upon us. Right? It's going to be upon us. The biggest crisis we had at the border is about, Trump summed it up, there's a tsunami. and it's coming. And this is very much parallels what happened in Germany when the ideologues just said, hey, we're going to throw open the gates and see what happens.
And Germany ain't Germany anymore, and France ain't France.
Short commercial break. We're going to return Maggie, Raheem, and Steve in the War Room.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, if you're in the war room, that means you're in the arena. If you're in the arena, you're in for the fight. We're fighting for our country. We need you healthy. We need all the Patriot warriors to be health warriors. Go to warroomdefense.com. Go to get our War Room Defense Pack. We've got both the zinc and got the vitamin D3. The War Room Defense Pack has a lot more than that. The zinc and the vitamin D3 are free. You have to pay shipping and handling. So make sure you go to warroomdefense.com today, right now. Find out all the information and sign up. We've got a fight ahead of us, folks. I'm telling you, this is a. How do you say it, Raheem? It's so brilliant. They
don't have a humanitarian crisis. They created a humanitarian crisis.
They tell us, Jen Psaki sits up there and spits out that, hey, they may have some issues, but the previous administration had a morality problem, had a morality crisis, and they're sorting that out.
There was one better quote just before. Right at the beginning of her press conference, she talked about the pent-up demand for mass migration that was caused by the Trump administration. I mean, you can't make that up.
Pent-up demand.
Right.
But you mean just securing our borders?
Right.
So
yeah.
basically,
pent-up demand.
I mean, we're talking about illegal immigration. We're not talking about legal immigration.
Right.
It's so insulting. And Joe Biden, I mean, he's now the president of human trafficking.
Can we call looting pent-up demand for free stuff?
It is. It's pent-up
right,
demand.
It's just pent-up
I've
demand,
got this
guys.
pent-up demand. I just want more stuff.
Right.
This is what's so shocking is their arrogance. And I'm telling you, this is hubris. They put out the amnesty bill. Look, this is a tragedy of biblical proportions in Central America and Latin America. We've got Michael Yon down there. He's going to be on the other side of the Darien Gap. He did the first side, from Colombia. He's going to be in Panama. Real America's Voice, Ben Bergquam, is going to be down in Yuma. We're covering this. We're going to have it on tomorrow and Friday and going forward to see exactly what's happening. But these are unforced errors. President Trump in building the wall and securing the border, and this is what working class Hispanics that live down there were responding to. They understood, and the Border Patrol, that's 75 or 80% Hispanic. They have to deliver that. But you stop the ICE raids, right, which I think they're down like 70% or something. There's an announcement today. You put out the amnesty bill that's so radical that basically says every person in the world has a right to come here to the United States. But the citizens of the United States don't have the right to actually protect their own sovereignty. And now you're going to have it. And don't listen. These people just don't wander up here. This is all organized by cartels. It's a high margin business with the trafficking. And so when Maggie says that, it's just not some flippant line.
Right.
He is the president of the trafficking now. And it's a huge high margin business. And for the young girls and the women, it is horrific. The stories we could tell you down on the border, and we'll get some guys on. We had Bergquam the other day. It wasn't even acceptable for a family broadcast, right? And he's just telling you what the facts are on the ground. You've got to see the reality. And then every city becomes every town's a border town. Chicago with the gangs and the drugs and all of it. And where does the burden fall on? It falls on working class African Americans in these sanctuary cities, and it falls on working class Hispanics down on the border in the Rio Grande Valley. Even Abbott, Governor Abbott, as tough as they come and knows his problem. He's shocked by what the scale of the numbers are, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the pent-up demand. Listen, every day I think we have to have a phrase of the day, right? We're going to make this like Sesame Street because look, we have all these.
Aren't they banned now?
Yeah, of course. We have all these.
Oscar is.
Well, because you can't count. Numbers are racist. Look, we have to make sure that certain phrases become things, right? We can't be referring to
Nomenclature,
this as a border crisis. We can't be referring to this as just a migrant crisis. This is Biden's border crisis. I want everybody to use that phrase in every single text chain, thread, Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, everywhere. I want to see it, okay? I'm looking for it. Biden's border crisis. Ram the message home, because a lot of this audience forgets, and I know I'm very lectury today, but it's out of love. I know people forget that this is this is tough love. Look, you taught me that. All right,
I just taught you the tough
part. Took my pillow away.
Taught you the tough part.
Look,
hold the love.
All the people in this audience know what it is.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
But go and talk to apolitical people.
You have to become a force.
Non-political people.
You know,
they don't know these.
We're
things.
getting the information. We've been talking about this for 6 weeks. We told you this coming. Everybody in the audience understands. You have to be a force multiplier today. Here's one of the things. I'll be quoted, I think, in Politico tomorrow. We're going to talk about the COVID bill they're just passing now. No one's done a good job. This COVID bill is the most radical piece of progressive legislation ever passed. And that's not me saying. I think it's Anita Dunn and Psaki.
Psaki said it today.
And here's the difference. It's so radical, and some of it's tied to these NGOs related to the border, right? It's fully financed. They don't have to go. It's not like even the equality bill or the HR 1, which are bad enough. They still have to go to the appropriations committee, right? They're statutory, but they still got to get the money. This comes with a $1.9 trillion check attached, okay? So they can fully finance it. That's radical. That's got to be fought, and the American people have to understand exactly where that cash is going, because it ain't going to them, and who's going to ultimately pay for it besides them, their children, and their grandchildren. That the Chinese Communist Party, when they start buying the bonds, how you are actually financing our own destruction. This is what the game is, okay? And we're going to be deconstructing all this. This crisis at the border, after all the time and effort, all the fighting, all the political disagreements and the victories and the defeats and all that, we're about to have a crisis unparalleled in American history, driven by Joe Biden and this hapless administration, half of whom are these ideologues that want it to happen, and the others are just too incompetent to get on top of it. Okay, we're going to be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Some program. We're going to have, I think right now, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene in. We're trying to get her in for the whole Washington today. We had some great drop-bys today. The Congress people know they have an open invitation to come in here, share a mic, and get it. Maggie
especially Democrats.
Especially Democrats. We'd love to have some Democrats come over. Maggie's she's finishing up her film. We're going to try to get the film tomorrow, but Maggie will be here tomorrow in the Raheem and Maggie debate. I get to referee since she beat me up so badly yesterday, right? My fan base was turning on me. So, hey, we agree with Maggie. I said, Raheem, you got to take it.
You
Raheem,
bring in the cavalry.
Raheem, you got to. Exactly. I need reinforcements. Our strategic reserve has to be called up.
So now it's going to be 2 against 1. I see.
Yeah, but you're smarter than both of us.
Maggie,
so you can deal with it.
Maggie,
okay?
you were bringing it. Come on.
Don't feel
and
bad
plus
for yourself.
the hardcore, our hardcore audience base was 100% in back of Maggie.
On your side.
I admit, hey. no mas. I'm just trying to put forward. I realize we got to fight this every day, right? So you got to drive it forward.
By the way, Phill, bring in a second. Let's make it even.
No. She can handle. But okay.
Hey, I'm just saying what people are telling me. I'm just speaking the truth.
MTG is going to be here. She had a great day today. MTG is going to be here, and she's going to talk about some of her analysis on the COVID-19 bill. We're going to see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.